Now, you would have thought Prince Harry's failed coronation appearance would inspire him to keep a low profile for the foreseeable future. But my next guest insists the Ginger Whinger will be moping back to Montecito with an even bigger chip on his shoulder, with those Californian cruise missiles set to rain down on London even harder than before, fresh off the back of Meghan's high-keen PR stunt during the coronation weekend, where she pretended not to have a care in the world, including posing for Paps wearing Princess Diana's watch. Esteemed royal author Tom Bower insists the Sussex psychodrama is about to get even nastier. So, Tom Bower, what are you expecting?
Well, I think that, as we predicted, she did a stunt. It wasn't a very good one on Coronation Day. But what's really going to happen now is they will plot something which will really hit the royal family in a way, because I think Harry went back pretty angry, clearly. And what really worries me is that the royal family is now a moving target, a soft touch. Charles showed that he won't answer back. So whatever is thrown at him, he's just going to take it. And I think this is the real danger now.
The thing is, Harry is clearly furious. He clearly feels humiliated. But what else was he expecting? I mean, he was not prepared to go to the coronation lunch. He was not prepared to stay for the concert, for example, which is an opportunity where he could have been in attendance. It was more his sort of thing. So what was he expecting the royal family to do?
Well, he expects them to apologise. He expects them in his naive, stupid way to think that somehow it's all going to fall his way. And on the way back across the Atlantic, he'll have realised it hasn't gone his way, and think, well, what am I now doing, can I do, to make their life really infinitely more difficult and embarrass them? And I think he'll take comfort, as will, unfortunately, Meghan, from those who say that the balcony was too white. They'll take comfort from the fact that somehow they're above. They've thrown in the racist...
well, ITV said it was terribly white.
Terribly white. Shouldn't it be terribly black in a white country? I mean, it is just appalling. And unfortunately, we've reached a point now where the anti-monarchists will keep on pushing this colour issue, because the monarchy is easy to touch. We've reached now a point where, unless somehow Charles makes it clear that he's not going to sit around defenceless and silent, that the anti-monarchists like that, and Hobie, the actress from Bridgetown, Olusoga, the Marxist historian given a free run on BBC, will just keep hitting, because they've reached a threshold and they now want to go further.
But the thing is, Tom, so much of that is the fault of Harry and Meghan, spreading what even they admit is false claims of racism within the royal family. I mean, you look at the Bridgerton woman, you look at Olusoga on the BBC and ITV, they are Harry and Meghan allies.
The coronation of King Charles III was supposed to be a symbol of unity, a moment when even strained family ties might find some peace, at least for the cameras. And while the event itself unfolded with royal pageantry, it didn't take long for a different narrative to take over. According to royal biographer Tom Bower, Prince Harry left the coronation very angry. Not just disappointed or sidelined, but furious. And that's not all. Bower claims the Sussex's public drama, or as he calls it, psychodrama, is nowhere near its end. So what happened during Harry's short return to the UK? Was it as tense as it sounds? And what does Bower really mean by this idea of ongoing psychodrama? Let's break it down. Let's start with what we actually saw. Harry flew in from California without Meghan. He attended the coronation ceremony alone. His seat, tucked several rows back from the front, far from his father and brother. There were no joint appearances, no private moments caught on camera. He didn't stay for the family gathering. And just hours after the ceremony, he was spotted heading back to the airport. All of that, the seating, the silence, the speed, tells a story. And according to Tom Bower, it's a story of exclusion.
Well, Olusoga was in her Netflix program. And that's the whole point. They actually, I don't think Harry, because he's not intelligent enough, but Meghan and her Netflix producers clearly see now this is the next step to undermine the monarch Charles, undermine King Charles, and somehow find a way in which they can destabilise Britain.
Do you think that's why Meghan didn't go? Because now she can say, I am not approving of the royal institution, that's why I didn't show up?
Of course. She didn't come because, I put it very simply, she didn't want to curtsy to the Queen and to Kate, but that was just the symbol. The reality is she wasn't going to take part in it. She sees her role as being the leader of the anti-royal faction. And Harry will feel somehow torn, but he'll just go along with whatever it is so he can stay in Montecito and not be homeless and junking around the world. And that is what's so really frightening, that somehow this American woke, anti-establishment, anti-white liberal democracy has now taken hold in Britain, that somehow the royal family, the soft target, is the first hurdle to overcome as the, what can I call the diversity extremists attempt to take over the institutions of this country.
But one worry, Tom, is that it sounds like King Charles, at least when he was the Prince of Wales, is very much listening to those people. This fascinating revelation today from Guito Harry, who was the Director of Communications for Boris Johnson last year. Charles criticises the Rwanda scheme. According to Guito, Boris squares up to him at this Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda, but critically also says to Charles, do not give this speech opening the door to historic reparations over slavery. Charles ignores him and goes up on stage and does exactly that. And now he's king, and he continues to open the door to historic reparations.
Well, that has always been my great, one of my great arguments against Charles in my book, The Rebel King. It was always that he can't stop meddling. He has opinions. He will not allow his opinions to be challenged. He will never listen to anybody else if it doesn't agree with what he believes in. And he has this view, because he leads a privileged life, that somehow that Rwanda is wrong. But the truth is that if the Tory government sends the first plane to Rwanda, then Starmer is toast, because suddenly everyone will realise the Tory government can do what they like, what they promised. And this is where King Charles has a great problem. I don't think Prince William will have that, but Charles, having spent 60 years campaigning...
He claims Harry expected some kind of recognition, perhaps a symbolic gesture that he was still valued, still welcome. But it didn't come. And when it didn't, Harry left angry. Tom Bower's commentary didn't stop at the coronation. He went further, calling the Sussexes' ongoing media presence a psychodrama. It's not the first time he's used that word, but it hits differently in the context of the coronation. He paints a picture of a couple still trapped in old emotional wounds, constantly reliving them, repeating them, and repackaging them for the public. Whether it's Harry's memoir Spare, their Netflix docuseries, or past interviews, Bower argues that the narrative always leads back to one thing: we were wronged. And from his perspective, that cycle isn't closing, it's just beginning a new phase. Let's pause and consider that word, psychodrama. It's a psychological term, originally used to describe role-play therapy. In modern usage, it often implies that someone is turning their pain into a performance and repeating it to gain control or attention. In this case, Bower is using it critically, as if the Sussexes are deliberately keeping their grievances alive. But it's important to ask, is that a fair label? Could it also be that Harry and Meghan are simply doing what many others have done?
Cannot stop campaigning. He can't stay quiet. And that is my great fear. And the truth is about King Charles, that for years as Prince of Wales, he took absolutely no interest in the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is endangered by Prince Charles. He was forced to go to Africa and parts of Asia. And he really has no relationship with the Commonwealth. He doesn't want to travel there really now either. And so I think what we're going to see, which is very interesting, and I think we even saw that today, that King Charles plants a tree up in Sandringham, but Prince and Princess of Wales do the heavy lifting at the garden party.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you about William and Kate, because they had a spectacular weekend. Very much united behind Charles now. That wasn't always the case, was it? But that is going to be a huge help for the king.
Well, we saw that the moment Harry peeled off, that they delivered a united front and buried their differences, and the differences were...
It's almost like Harry saved their relationship.
Well, saved it. And in the end, it was also survival. I'm sure the Queen said to William, you really got to make up...
The late
Queen, because it's vital for the survival of the monarchy. But I do think that Prince William has a very different approach. He's not an interventionist. He doesn't think about politics and things like his father did. So it's going to be very interesting, but also difficult to see how the king will interact with the political leaders, and what William will do. Because, of course, Charles, in William's position, didn't stop interfering in politics.
No.
And that's now going to be...
William won't be that stupid. But I think the key question is the one that you've already raised. Will Charles be able to help himself? Because it is notable that one of the first people who he had for a sleepover, for want of a better term, at Windsor Castle when he became king. Apparently he's going to be doing this more often, you know, inviting people from various parts of the world, showbiz, sport, that sort of thing. But the person who he had on the first of these was Keir Starmer and his wife.
Yeah, and he does that because, quite rightly, he's got to pretend or show neutrality. The real problem is, what does he discuss with these politicians? Does he try to influence them, as he did with Tony Blair in favour of fox hunting and things like that? In my view, he will not be able to hold back because he has got such pronounced views. But he will put himself in the firing line of the diversity brigade, of the people who...
Yeah, because it's never going to be enough for them.
Exactly.
It's never going to be enough for them until he's not on the throne.
Exactly.
And that's what he's got to start realising.
Exactly.
Tom Bauer, absolutely brilliant stuff. Thank you, Tom. We'll speak next week.
Telling their story, confronting trauma, and trying to reshape how they're seen? Supporters would say yes. Critics would say no. But either way, it's a debate that's not going away. What's clear is that the coronation didn't heal anything. If anything, it seems to have reminded both Harry and the palace of just how wide the rift has become. There was no public reunion, no olive branch, no hint of reconciliation, just formality. And if Bauer is right, the Sussexes aren't backing away. They're getting ready for what's next, whether that's more publishing, more platforms, or another public chapter in their story. The monarchy, meanwhile, remains silent, as always. So, did Harry leave the coronation angry? According to Bauer, yes. And honestly, based on how things looked, it's not hard to believe. But the bigger question is this: how much longer can this go on? If the royal family continues to hold the line of tradition and silence, and the Sussexes continue to speak, reveal, and reflect, it's not just a feud. It's a story playing out in real time, with global attention and real emotional stakes. Whether you see it as psychodrama or personal truth, the tension is real. The pain is real. And the public, still watching,